Hello and welcome everyone, I'm C.S.Gilmore and today we're going to be discussing The Soul Drinkers Omnibus, Book 1 by Ben Counter. So this book has a couple different here, is inside it, Soul Drinker, The Bleeding Chalice, and Crimson Tears. So 3 books, if I am not mistaken, and yeah, there's a lot in here to unpack. Where do you start? Let's start with the beginning, I guess. Most of these stories are told following the main character being someone named Serpedon. He's a librarian in the Soul Drinkers chapter. So it means psychic powers, warp shenanigans, all that good stuff. And that kind of is a bit important. Now, the Soul Drinkers are an interesting chapter. They are loyalist, at least to begin. And they specialize in like boarding actions. They also have a mutation. A lot of Space Marines can, like, say, eat the brains of someone and gain some tactical information from that, like some basic information, emotions, general tactical situation of like recent stuff. The Soul Drinkers have a mutation to their, I think it was the amaphagia gland or something, whatever allows them to do this weird stuff. When they eat someone's brain, they don't just get a loose grasp of things. They like see as if they were and feel as if they were the person or the thing for a while, and they get like full on vision into this whoever they ate's life and state of being. So really good for gathering information. Kinda like there's one point where near the beginning, I believe, where they're attacking a station uh, uh and they eat a mutant's one of them eats a mutant's brain to get, I believe it's Serpedon, eats a mutant's brain to get information on what they're going up against and what's waiting for him, and he it feels what it is to be a mutant and to live as a mutant and to deal with all this stuff and the horrible feeling of that and everything, being separated from the Emperor's light because he's not what he should be and things like that. And yeah, it gets weird. And then there's a lot of stuff going on. Um, there's a place that there is a station that's been taken over by. Do you think there was some drug dealer, like criminal network, had control of this thing? This one planetary government person wanted them dealt with. Um, because he wants, the political power, and getting rid of them opens up a bunch of options for him and things like that. It's good for his resume, that sort of deal. Things get complicated though. He doesn't really want, he wants it to really look good for him, and he doesn't want to just, throw units at. He could throw, the military forces under his command into this mess and deal with it, but he'd probably lose people. It wouldn't look as good. Well, turns out there's this special spear, or whatever, that is a chapter relic of the Soul Drinkers that has lost, way back. And yeah, we're going to be talking about spoilers once again. If you don't want the book spoiled, don't listen. Uh, anyway, special spear allegedly can only be used by like the Soul Drinkers and those. I believe they were an they believe themselves to be an Iron Fists successor chapter, or was it the Iron Fists, Imperial Fists, whatever it was. Bother, my brain, I forgot which chapter, but yeah, one of the Loyalist chapters that they originated from. But there's some definite suggestions here throughout the stories that maybe they're potentially one of the. They might have some gene seed that is actually not from that chapter. They might be from, say, one of the other chapters that has been erased from history or that went traitor and but had some loyalists and their gene seed got intermixed and they got adopted into, I don't know, but they don't know. They've lost a lot of their history. Another interesting point of this chapter is they aren't necessarily codex compliant in the standard sense. They tend to the Codex Astartes, like the Gilman's book. Yeah, they have their own stuff. They have their own writings from one of their old chapter heroes that died, a long time ago. All that sort of stuff. Anyway, turns out the spear that there is their chapter relic is held by this criminal group in this station above a planet, and they work out. This noble or secretary, I forget what his exact position in the government was, but he was higher up and hoping he was pretty high up and hoping to get higher. Anyway, he made sure that information got to the soul drinkers in the area. That hey, yeah, your chapter relics here. Maybe you could help us out taking out these guys and get your chapter relic back at the same time. There was also Mechanicus, like a Magos, there in the area, working with some of this. I forget the exact reason why. Anyway, he's there. So you got the Mechanicus, you got the General Imperium, and now you've got the Soul Drinkers involved. And the Soul Drinkers do what they do best, which is boarding actions. So they go in and they are dealing with this whole mess, and their only interest really is to get their chapter relic back. They could care less about the politics. But they'll do their job. They'll get the things done, and they'll get their chapter relic back. It's what they're going for. And my main issue with this story, with this omnibus, is I feel like it kind of felt a little forced with what led them to eventually go renegade, because they don't go chaos. At least not like they don't go, hey, we left the Imperium, we're going chaos. They go renegade. They go, we're not really loyal to the Imperium, but we're still loyal to the Emperor type of deal. But what leads up to this, I feel it was kind of a forced situation of everyone involved was stupid and unreasonable on a galactic scale. First, this one guy is, trying to manipulate the Astartes to do his job, clearing the station for him so that he can get the credit. And they want their relic. Well, they get through all this stuff. They find the relic, and they're about to grab it. When the Mechanicus idiot teleports in, grabs it, and teleports back to his ship. And they're like, not cool, man. Give that back. Or else. We will kill you, because that's our relic. And he's going, well, this is ancient the technology that belongs to the Omnissiah. I'm taking it for study right now because it's a really cool, I believe it was a spear, or yeah, I believe it was a spear, a double-bladed spear type of situation. But it's really cool Dark Age of technology junk that creates a stabilized warp rift for the blades. So basically, it's a Vorpal spear. It can cut whatever. Because it just will, cool. You want to get sucked into the warp? we'll just suck this little slice of you into the warp. Guess what? That probably hurts. Also, hey, we just cut you in half. Yeah, that usually kills the enemy. Things like that. Like, really super cool spear. Allegedly, it can only be used by those who are descendants of Dorn. There's some iffiness that gets involved there that is part of the reason I question whether they're actually Dorn descendants with their gene seed, because especially in the second omnibus, there's a whole lot of things that bring lots of things into question, and we'll talk about that another time. But for this one, I remember it's been a long time since I read it, but I remember considerable frustration in the situation of this entire thing could have been avoided if anyone had bothered to be reasonable for 5 seconds and talked things over and actually, conceded some point or another. And they basically drove themselves into being renegades. Because the one Imperial guy for the government is like, I just want the credit for this. Mechanicus idiot steals their spear. And they're like, hey, not cool, give it back. He's like, no, it's mine now. Space Marine pride, they can't let that go. It's a relic. It's a chapter relic from Dorn himself that they'll kill the Mechanicus guy to get, even if that causes, damages to the Imperium and or a schism between the factions. And the Mechanicus guy doubles down instead of conceding to this. He doubles down and turns out he brought a ship that can be turned into, how to describe it? It turns into a giant gun, like planet killer type gun, or big fleet killer type gun. Like, it turns into a giant artillery thing. And he basically threatens them with that. All right, you're on the station now. You just did a boarding action. You're stuck on the station for the most part, except for a couple of you. You either drop this, or I'll charge this gun up and kill y'all. And they're like, no, we'll kill you. And they, I forget how it all plays out exactly, but basically, Mechanicus dude skedaddles while they board his ship and his giant gun, which has become a giant gun. They board it and take over there and everything. And I forget all the details. Then, of course, there's the other Imperial fleet units there going, guys, quit fighting. Come on, please. I forget exactly how it all plays out, but for whatever reason, the gun, I believe, fires and ends up taking out several ships of the Imperium. And the Soul Drinkers get blamed for it, even though it's really the Mechanicus idiot's fault, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's the beginning of their fault. And apparently no one brought a GoPro to record this whole scenario to tell the Inquisition, no, look, the Mechanicus started this. Or technically, the one guy started it, but by bringing them all in, and then Mechanicus escalated, and then but for whatever reason, the Imperium goes, and the Inquisition, who ends up getting brought into all this, all go, this is definitely the Soul Drinkers' fault exclusively, and we are excommunicating them because they're they aren't the entire chapter. This is like a break off of the chapter, but like the chapter is gonna be gaining some attention now because this group is definitely doing damage to the Imperium and could very well be renegade or rogue and gone chaos. Ooh, yeah. Unreasonableness all around. We aren't even going to talk about this. We're just they're excommunicado. And yeah, so of course the Soul Drinkers anyway get back to their ship, and then they're off after the Mechanicus guy who skedaddled with their wet relic. But things get complicated. The rest of their chapter ends up catching up to them eventually in like an asteroid field, around the same time as they're being about getting caught up with by the Inquisition, who's decided to get involved with this whole matter. And yeah, like I said, no reasonableness, no, hey, let's talk this out and figure out what their side of the story is. No, you guys shot some Imperial ships, now you're excommunicated. you're heretics now. We're gonna hunt you down. They send it in. They send the Inquisitor sends his what's his name, interrogator, his second in command, basically, over to deal with things. And his interrogator is a stick up his butt, got issues, no reasonableness whatsoever. Once again, could easily have talked things out and worked things out and gone, okay, yeah, no, that the mechanic is once again the problem. Oh, gee, who would have guessed they cause problems so often? But no, once again, no issues. And the Soul Drinkers have a duel thing where like, okay, we have a disagreement. Let's duel, and the winner is obviously the one in the right because the Emperor has blessed them and helped them. Anyway, I believe it was. I can't remember who exactly it was involved here. Uh, One of the chapter might have been Serpedon, might have been another guy named Telos. I can't remember if he had gotten hurt previously or whether this is where he gets hurt. Telos is like he's a combat specialist in the group, very good duelist, super like rising star in the chapter. And either way, they have a duel. The interrogator gets, I believe, killed. And once again, so of course, communications once again breaking down even more. And yeah, but this chapter obviously we're in the right because we won the duel. And the rest of the chapter has caught up to them as well, like I mentioned, I believe, and is gone. Yo, what are you guys doing? You're getting us in trouble with the Inquisition. And they're like, chapter relic, chasing. It's the Mechanicus' fault. And yeah, things go downhill further and further. Chaos does get involved here, though. Of course, it doesn't just go, oh yeah, we're going to go renegade because the Inquisition. We happen to pull the short straw on the Inquisitors involved in the area, and we got the one that can't be talked to. It's you're either good or you're dead, and he's the I've already decided you're dead type. So yeah, so that's my main gripe, I would say, with the initial story is a lot of it felt very forced because no one had a brain cell enough to go, we should talk about this and go and figure out whose fault it really is and then come to an agreement. There is no one it will budge an inch, no one will talk about anything in a reasonable fashion. No one will even try to discuss things, really. They'll claim to try to discuss things, and they'll just immediately go, all right, let's kill each other to solve this difference. And yeah, that's my main gripe. Plus, as I recall, there was a few points between this omnibus and the second omnibus where some of the books had some weird inconsistencies a few times with things. It's like, wait, but you said this was this, and now this is this, but this. I also mentioned the guy named Telos, Rising Star. Yeah, he gets his hands chopped off. I forget exactly why, but he got basically crippled and is like, you'll never, and they're like, you'll never fight again. And warp shenanigans begin because the chapter master is talking with Serpedon, and is like, what are you doing? You're getting us in trouble with the Inquisition, as I mentioned. And they have other duels of who's in the right. And Serpedon's fighting with the chapter master, dueling, da 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 da, and he feels the power of the Emperor rising up inside him. And at various points, they had some discussion of referring to the Emperor as the architect of fate. That's always already a red flag for any of you who know Chaos. And a certain one named Zinch, particularly. Anyway, he feels the power of the Emperor rise up inside of him. He's losing this duel, but he won't give up. And suddenly he bursts out with spider legs. Like, I forget, he gets injured, something happens, And I think he was going to lose the duel, but then, yeah, spider legs, and he ends up impaling the guy he's dueling with and killing him. He's won the duel. He's obviously in the right. But, he just burst spider legs, which is always a big no-no. And some of the chapter are like, yeah, okay, we have to honor the duel. He's obviously right, and we agree. And, most of them are the ones that were involved with him already, and with Serpedon already, and, like, know him and have been involved in the whole shenanigans since the beginning. Some of them aren't cool with that, and they have a whole chapter civil war and a bunch of. Some of them die. Some of them get into trouble. They also, in order to escape the Inquisition out of this asteroid field they're in, because the Inquisition's gone trapped there, they end up scuttling a bunch of their own ships and only taking like one or two of them. I forget. No more than three. Anyway, they scuttle a bunch of their fleet and only have and they have to flee. But warp shenanigans, and for whatever reason, most of the good chunk of the chapter, including Serpedon, are going, this is a blessing from the Emperor, obviously, because I was fighting for the Emperor, and he blessed me, and he saved me from losing the duel, and yeah, I've got spider legs, which is a weird choice of how the Emperor would help me, but it was obviously the Emperor. And no one went, and those few that went, yeah, I don't think so, ended up being, killed in the Civil War. Of, no, but I'm not honoring this duel because obviously that's warp shenanigans. And no, it's obviously the Emperor, and yeah, etc. and so forth. Bad problems. Anyway, Telos also gets warp shenanigan, and he gets a super healing factor type deal. And he also is super obsessed with, dueling and being the best fighter and everything like that. All right, red flags. Yeah, Horn loves that type of thing, right? Anyway, he gets weird super regeneration mutations, and he doesn't have hands anymore. So what does he do? He jams blades into the ends of his stumps so he can fight again. Because that's healthy. And totally, he's totally okay, guys. Totally not gone deep end insane problems. Just like Mr. Spiderlegs over here, librarian, who we should already have been suspicious of. As I recall, the librarians had a lot more sway in this chapter already for other reasons. The chaplains also are a big deal, but they're a little again they don't use the codex so much. They use their own chapter's writings from their ancient hero in the chapter. So the chapter's gone renegade. They've escaped the Inquisition for now, and unfortunately, it has been a long time. So I'm a little vague on some of this stuff. Things happen. They end up going off and getting directed. They get directed by someone. They get some communication. They figure it's the Emperor communicating with them, I believe. They get sent to a planet where they find a demon prince type situation of Nurgle. This is a really cool concept, by the way. Like, one of the points I will give to this book series, they explore some really fun concepts. Because, yeah, the healing factor, the spider legs mutations, and this allows him to do some weird maneuvering. Like, he can walk on, punching. These are really strong spider leg things. He can climb up the walls and ceilings by punching holes in them and whatnot, grabbing them. Yeah, and Serpedon's now Serpedon's like able to do all this stuff. Plus, he's already a psyker, so he's got superpowers galore already. But they get sent to this planet with a demon prince of Nurgle on it, and they're thinking, all right, and they're still going drinking we're serving the Emperor still juice, and they're going, all right, but we're not so sure on the Imperium now because the Imperium's got this Inquisitor bunch, and they've already declared us hereticus even before this mutation issue. And so we're not sure. We think the Imperium's corrupt, but the Emperor's great. So we're going to keep serving the Emperor, even if we have to work around the Imperium to do it. And they obviously the Emperor sent us here to this planet to deal with this obvious chaos corruption. And this Chaos Demon Prince of Nurgle is really cool because a lot of the times they're big, gross mutations, bubbly plague junk. This guy is actually a hive mind situation. Um, he's a sentient plague, basically. The Demon Prince is the plague that animates these corpses and other bodies or other infected and things like that. And they're all interconnected communication. So the more hosts they are, the more powerful this demon prince becomes because he's got more bodies to throw at them and whatnot. But they fight their way through them and they kill everything and everyone, which is weakening the demon prince. They kill the demon prince, and I forget how they exactly kill him because he's really hard to kill because anything he's affected is part of him. I think they literally do it by killing everything and everyone. Yay! They've served the Emperor. They've killed a great demon prince of Nurgle, who is obviously a service of chaos. And now we are serving the Emperor. And then some stuff happens, and they get approached by some weird thing, and they're like, "What is this? This isn't good. What is this? Some warp presence or whatever. We're being approached by something." And they get approached by this figure. It's like once again they've still been going on about the Emperor, the great architect of fate, has guided us here, and they get approached by this guy who's like, "Hey, yeah, guys. By the way, I got your spear back for you. Here it is. I wrecked that Forge World to get that they fled to get for you. But here's your special relic." So Serpedon's kind of taken up the chapter master mantle at this point because of everything that's happened and the old chapter master being dead, and etc. and so forth. He's like, here. So this guy's like, here's your spear. Also, I made Father. What was Zinch's high demons called? Changer of Ways, something like Shaper Ways, Changer of Ways. I think it was something like that. Big bird person. Yeah, I'm one of. I am. You're obviously, servants. You have done well serving Zinch, and now and look at all the blessings he has given you. All these great mutations have made you even more powerful, and you have done well in defeating one of his rivals in the Prince of Nurgle. Here's your special fancy spear back. I will hand it to you as a gift. If now join me and serve me, and we will serve chaos. And Serpedon takes the spear from him and says, "Screw you!" Activates the spear and banishes the demon prince. The high demon, not demon prince. Yeah. Anyway, banishes the demon by slicing him with the special super spear. And yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. But at this point they realize we've been getting manipulated by chaos the entire time. Who could have guessed? If only someone had enough sense to go, gee, Architect of Fate. Oh wait, that's one of the titles for the Changer of Ways, the Zinch. Yeah, okay. Man, why can I not remember that name of that demon properly? Anyway, and that's how the first book ends, with them going, we may have made a mistake. But the Imperium's still a corrupt piece of garbage. So we're not going to serve. I believe Serpedon makes this when he takes the spear and activates it and slices the demon and banishes him back to the warp. He does so with a nice line of, "We are owned by no one," or something like that. He's like, "No, we don't serve you." And we don't serve the Imperium because they're a bunch of corrupt garbage. We only serve the Emperor. And so, yeah, they're still going on about that. Then the following books have them dealing with some of that fallout of we have some problems. One, mutations. And it turns out the mutations are still ongoing. Yeah, you may have told Zinch to and his the demon that tried to recruit you to go shove off. You're still getting mutated, and so they have their wow, my brain is dropping all the names today. Uh, their medic has to do a bunch of research trying to figure out how to stabilize their gene seed so it stops mutating. Meanwhile, Telos, the shoved up blades and arms guy, I think he's upgraded to from shards of metal to like actual chain swords or something. But anyway, he still shoved in his stumps and super healing factor. Um, he's becoming more erratic, and they're going. We've lost a lot of battle brothers, and we've got problems. We've got the mutations ongoing. We've got stabilized mutations. Also, we need more Space Marines because we don't have. We are almost out of chapter serfs. We've only got this one ship or two. Like they're not in great shape. They're down like in strength considerably. I think they've got like one chaplain left, and he's kind of got his own following now because of like being the only chaplain left. He's like he's the one they all go to for spiritual guidance. Anyway, things go on. They end up getting involved in I think it was a Drukari or Eldar, one of the Eldar factions, uh, dealing with some planetary stuff, and they get involved in interfering with that because they're still loyal to the Emperor and humans first, but they also need recruits, and so they end up saving a planet kind of from the Eldar, but they also are having issues, and I forget the entire details of it. Telos eventually ends up getting separated from the group. I think they think he's dead because he yeah, he gets into a fight, and I want to say he gets like an entire building dropped on him or something. I forget, but they get separated. They think he's dead, and I can't remember if it was this one or the next Omnibus's stories where they eventually find out he's not dead, and turns out I think it was the end, like the last book in this one, the third book. They find out he's not dead, and they go after to pick him up and figure out what's going on because he's been doing a bunch of stuff like raiding the Imperial worlds, and yeah, he's kind of gone full chaos. And this is also part of their problem. A bunch of the new recruits as well don't necessarily agree with Serpedon on this is the way we should do things. Maybe we should go full chaos. And so once again, more civil wars, issues. The entire chapter has problems, as you may have guessed. And yeah, that's kind of where the first omnibus leaves them, as I recall, with them dealing with Telos. Or Telos, whatever his name was. Tllos, I think it was. Telos. Blah, blah, blah. Let me see if I can find the ending here just to give a brief recap. Crimson Fists get involved, so Dorn's other chapters, and they end up. By the way, the Crimson Fists and the Dorn's the Imperial Fists and stuff like that. They're now hunting down the Soul Drinkers too because they've now sullied the name of Dorn by going rogue. Don't do that. And another thing, the Inquisition continues to screw things up as the Inquisition is wont to do, because they send people into the archives of, I want to say, the Imperial Palace, and might be handy to say find the chapter's history and figure out where they really did originate from and everything like that. That would be nice, right? Maybe get some details, some answers, maybe information on the enemy. No, the Inquisition doesn't think like that. This Inquisitor is one of those idiots. Inquisitors that gives the Inquisition their bad reputation. the Inquisitor sends people in to not retrieve information, but to destroy all information regarding this Soul Drinkers chapter, because they must be eradicated from Imperial history. They have been fully excommunicated. They have obviously gone traitor. They must never be honored again. No one must risk finding their information and being similarly corrupted. So once again, we'll never find out the origins of the Soul Drinkers for sure, because they have been eradicated from history. Because thanks, Inquisition, you're a bunch of morons. So yeah, that's my main gripe with the books: is characters are idiots. Cool concepts though, great stuff. They had some good one-liners, and the concepts of some of the demons and how they interact with the people is awesome. I really like that Nurgle guy, and how he was basically a sentient hive mind virus. Fun times. I'm trying to think if there was anything else important in this first omnibus I really should mention. I've probably forgotten something. I skimmed over a ton. And I didn't really cover a lot. Most of the details I covered were in the first book, and then a little bit in just skimming over the other books. Yeah. I will say, despite my frustrations, and this thing probably, I want to give this a rating of a 6, just because there was so much frustration involved. But otherwise, like, cool concepts, great stuff. Maybe bump it up to a 7 as a result. Like, it's still a worthwhile read. I still read through the whole book, and I read the second omnibus. Despite my issues with it, they weren't enough to stop me from reading the story and generally enjoying various aspects of the story. So that's The Soul Drinkers Omnibus 1 by Ben Counter. If you guys have read it, leave a comment below what you guys think about it, because there were definitely a lot of points in there. Oh yes, the Soul Drinkers, in finding with all this and the Crimson Fist scheme involved, they actually that's something I should have mentioned. The Soul Drinkers, of course, have to avoid the Crimson Fist, because the Crimson Fists want to kill them or capture them for questioning and whatnot, and they have to deal with them. And they kind of work that out. But as I recall, they really tick off the Crimson Fists. I don't recall the exact way they did it. I believe it involved distracting them by stealing their standard from their standard bearer. So they steal the Crimson Fist standard, and that's a big deal for them. And not winning the Soul Drinkers any friends amongst their brother chapters, because no, that's like almost on the par of like, hey, you stole our chapter relic. With how they treat it is, you stole our standard. We will get that back, or else. Yeah. Once again, though, people, just please talk over your issues. We can work this out. I get it's grim dark, but please stop being grim dirt. You don't have to be stupid about your interactions with each other to have reasons to kill each other. Yeah, I'm sure you can find plenty of reasonable reasons for it in this whole grimdark universe. There's plenty to go with. I think that's it for this book. Or books. This omnibus. Next week, we'll discuss the second omnibus. Because, oh boy, do some things happen. Yeah. Do you think the Soul Drinkers chapter is in trouble right now? Being renegades and hunted down by everyone, Inquisition, the other loyalist chapters, especially those related to Dorne. You think that, and having trouble with recruits and civil wars again because their recruits aren't entirely following the book, aren't really willing to follow the line and want to go full chaos somewhat themselves. But yeah, they are all on board with the, yeah, we kind of hate the Imperium 2 deal. Yeah. If you think the chapter's in trouble already, well, they are. They're in big trouble. But it gets worse. Omnibus 2, it gets worse before it gets better. So much worse. In very fun, interesting ways. But I'm going to have to review that Omnibus a little bit before I get into it, because there's a couple spots that I'm forgetting some important details. I'm pretty sure they are on the edge of my memory, and I just need to revive that before I discuss it. But for now, I gotta get to bed. So hit like, hit subscribe, keep up with new releases. Comments below, what did you all think about the books, if you read them, or, any but actuallys if I if I misremembered something horribly, and yeah, let's discuss, because I still love discussing these books. I love discussing this lore. It's great. Until then, good night, everyone. Bye. Definitely bedtime.